Okay, so some of you have had a chance to walk around and see the works. Some of you watch the works being created online. Sometimes as I'm creating, I do a lot of time lapse. Sometimes I'll stream live, but mostly it's time lapse videos and still photos and real-time videos to show what I'm doing in the studio and to show what happens before a piece is on the wall or exhibited anywhere. And to me, that's an important part of the history and the legacy of each piece, is that it is a journey. It's a journey from conception, it's a journey through building little bones and nerves and things that are going to start flowing all over a canvas. And then staying in the physiological terms, I guess, adding skin and color and clothing and personality and identity to each piece. And that to me is a way of describing how it feels for me to be a human being. That I'm made up of a lot of really unique things, much like everyone else in here is made up of really unique things, that most of which we can't see. So you'll notice a lot of my work has a biological feel to it. That's intentional, but maybe not always consciously intentional. It's just where I go. It's what I gravitate towards because I love the minute, the minuscule, the things that I cannot see, the mysteries, the magic, the wonder. I know that as I'm standing here, I've got a little patch of a bazillion little moving parts that are vibrating against each other that I will never see, but I'm aware of them. I feel them or hear them. And because I'm a musician, also everything vibrates. So as I journey through my paintings, as I journey through how I'm interpreting my life through my paintings, I'm sharing those vibrations, and sometimes those vibrations show up in play and humor and silliness, much like the mural behind us that says "Love Bites," and sometimes it feels really, really good. I mean, it's actually written in there because we should be poking fun at our experiences, the things that we sometimes can take seriously. I mean, who's ever been bitten by love in a bad way? Who's ever been bitten by love in a good way?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Can I hear it? Testify, please. And the dichotomy of our experience, does have the light and the dark, the humorous and the tragic, the joyful and the grief-stricken. And to me, I'm not sure when or why, but to me, I can't have any without the other. I just, the poignancy of losing a loved one, yes, it hurts, yes, it sucks, yes, it will bring me to my knees, but it also makes me appreciate so deeply the things that I have and the people in my life that I have. And I'm not sure that I would necessarily as deeply understand how important those people are without having lost other people that were also important. And so I started to really embrace all of those experiences. And I've done that through music. I'm a musician and a vocalist, singer, songwriter, composer. And it was easy for me to do it musically because I feel music. Obviously, most of us will feel a vibration or feel an emotion on hearing something. But when I started painting, and I've been painting pretty much full-time, at least 12 years. I mean, I've been painting on and off my entire life, photographer on and off most of my life, musician on and off most of my life, but the last 12 years have really been dedicated to the analog hand of the artist on the paint, on the canvas, on the floor sometimes, or on the ceiling sometimes. And that changed my relationship with my art. I had, especially when I went very large like these, I had more visceral experiences with it. And as I was having these visceral, physical, kinetic experiences, gestural experiences, I realized how much more I was able to translate into my artwork. How the physical experiences were really informing my, what I was creating and painting. And so with this body of work, which is as a whole called Meaning, the search for, it's like, yes, I put meaning first, but to me, the search for is like this dot, which will never end. And I love that idea that I will never fully understand the meaning of me, for sure. So if I can never fully understand the meaning of me, I have to also admit humbly that I will never understand the full meaning of everything else. And so because of that, I started developing these techniques to hide things in the paintings. So people would not always get exactly everything about the painting either until they spent some time with it or shifted their physical perspective to the painting, looked at it under a new light, which is why I've got the UV flashlights floating around that people can actually see the UV paint details. And the importance, that's almost as, if not more important to me as far as the artistic experience than whether the artwork is any good or not. It's the idea that, and the invitation that we can learn to look at something from a new perspective, in a new light. We have challenges every day. We have, cultural challenges, cultural differences, people trying to kill each other in wars. We have religious differences, political differences, educational differences, language differences. One of the key critical challenges we have in this country is the science has shown that the majority of our country reads at a 6th grade level. And if that's the case, then understandably there's going to be miscommunication, distrust, confusion, frustration, anger, because people aren't able to talk even the same language, even if they're speaking the same language, because they don't understand the words. And that's, to me, very, very important that we find other ways to connect that are without, that aren't tied to the gatekeeping of how educated somebody is. Everybody is valuable. Everybody has worth. Everybody has intellect, their own way of knowing things. Everybody has the beautiful ideas and creativity that's going on in their own brains. And for me, my job is to figure out how to learn that from somebody else. It's not up to them to convince me of their own intellect. They're already smart. I don't care what grade level you read at. You've got that intellect and you've got that worth. And so, again, back to this invitation to look at something from a new perspective. I have so much fun and almost childlike delight in hiding things in plain sight. I have, it's almost silly, and Damien knows because he'll hear me cackling back there when something works out, and it's like, it's a whole new surprise. It's like, oh, it worked, and I'm literally cackling in delight and glee. And to me, it helps me stay, I guess, grounded in the simplicity of wonder and the simplicity of play and the simplicity of the child's mind. And when I can do that, I can invite anybody from any walk of life into this space and respect and want to hear what they think, even if they don't know what they think. even if they just attach to a color, that to me brings me joy, because now we've got a starting point to talk. And I so much am tied to this and connected to this belief that art is a language. I often hashtag I paint what I can't say, because it is very true. I'm fairly verbose with a mic in front of my face, and I can talk, but there are subtleties to who we are as a species. There's subtleties to our experiences that are very difficult to express, and painting lets me express all of those feels, and all of those weird thoughts and quirky thoughts, and they do come out in painting. But when I say that I love it when anybody from any walk of life, any application, I have, it's non-negotiable. It's just anybody is welcome. And they'll describe what they're feeling, and I'm happy to say that's exactly right, because you're the one feeling it. Why would I say, well, no, that's not what it's meaning? It's like, no, how rude and how, egotistical would it be for me to say, oh, but you're supposed to think this, and you're supposed to feel this, because this is what I was feeling. It's like, I don't know what their life experience is. And art has a very unique way of bringing us together in ways that are safe, are still, they can be emotional, they can be challenging, but there's a way that we can let go of, our intellect, though. I mean, sometimes I'll get people that's like, they really think they want to sound smart about what they're looking at, and I'll say, it's okay if you have not had the experience of standing in front of a painting before. You don't need to think about it, honor me by just telling me what you feel. And that pressure gets taken off. And I love sending people away from here with less stress than when they came in. And it's kind of tied to how I run the gallery, but it's intrinsic to who I am. It's in the DNA. And I don't really know what else I can say about the art, but I'm welcoming questions. I've kind of been rambling. This has been a very unusual artist talk for me. I was like, wow. I'm usually a little more direct about, there's a hidden poem in this painting behind me. Go look at the red Band-Aid and you'll find it, but you have to crawl around. And then, yes, there's things on the ceiling, because I love disrupting expectations, because I'm kind of weird that way. But yeah, so if you've got questions, feel free to ask. If you don't, that's fine too.
How important is it to you to share the creative process, right? Because we can all watch on social media as these become pieces of art that they are. And why is that important to you?
Okay, so I'll repeat the question for recording. Why is it important for me to share the process? And obviously it is important, and it's not quite a compulsion. I'm still a performer, so there's some performers in the room. They understand that, but mostly I do a lot of mentoring, and some artists are absolutely terrified of just starting something, and they don't know where to start, or they think they're going to start something wrong. And by showing and being very transparent about the process from the very beginning, from the first mark, and I don't ever know what the first mark is going to be. I'm not a figurative artist, so I don't sketch things out ahead of time. But by sharing that, it gives, especially a young artist or a new artist, some permission, even though they don't need it, but it gives them some permission to just start, to make mistakes, to repeat the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again ad nauseum, because that's obviously what I do a lot. And it just makes the art making process more accessible and minimizes the gatekeeping that is often found around the artistic process.
Do you remember the first piece you made to gift to someone when you were a child, or your very first creative piece you gave away?
Boy, my mind went to a bazillion different directions, and depending on age, I remember my mother taught us how to sew when I was 6 years old. So I mean, I always sewed things, and I know that I would have made things and given them away as a child. Cooking, would make things and give them away as a child. I've been cooking since I was 6 as well. Would do, crafts in school, things like that. But as far as specifically, gosh, that's a tough one. I remember more later in life, maybe in my early 20s, doing
The first one you remember then, the significant piece that you created and gave away?
It would be like a portrait of my baby niece that I did, just a pencil portrait, and it's funny because Marty and I have had this conversation that I'm not a figurative artist, but I can be if you force me to, and and I love figurative work. I'm just in awe of artists who that is their chosen visual language. But that would have been probably the one that I remember the most in detail of, and her I think in a laundry basket. And so, drawing is very sweet pencil portrait, which I think my sister still has 27 years later.
One of the building blocks today.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Come on in. Just watch the tripod right there, it's being recorded. Sorry. And let's see, yes.
I'm just curious, these pieces that you kind of folded over and the ones hanging and the ones but this one's flat. When you're creating them, do you know, I'm gonna lay that one flat, I'm gonna hang this one like that, I'm gonna do that one?
Part of it is because I'm a musician, that I love how we can play music in so many different ways. And as you notice, most of these works, except for the small ones that are stretched canvas, they're not stretched, they're not rigid. That lets me have the flexibility to display them in many different ways. And it's also, and I'm a very lazy artist as far as storage. I love that I can just roll them up, tuck them away, and they're safe. And they also ship a lot cheaper. Anyway, but I've always had the vision of installing them in different ways as part of the, I guess, the translation of the series. It's part of the language of the series as far as the journey. And I don't know why, I hope my phone keeps doing things. I'm like, the journey is so important as far as flexibility. And so, like this installation with it hanging, I call it the chrysalis installation. It's very cocoon-like, and both of those are two-sided paintings, so there's something different on the inside. And I am also one of these very weird artists that let people touch and handle their work. So for the opening reception, I had people crawling in and draping it around them and experiencing art in a new way. Again, this concept of how do we change our perspective of anything? Well, we look at it in a new way, or we have to move. We engage a different sense, or look at it in a new light. The same way with the ceiling. I'm nothing if not disruptive sometimes, much to the chagrin of maybe county officials every now and then, calling them out on things. But I love when artists do something that's out of the expected norm. Not just to be out of the expected norm, but with purpose. So, you know, the language of this series is journey, is, you know, how do we fly? How do we, you know, I mean, I was talking to somebody, my footprint is on a couple of these, or a couple places on this piece, which is called Take a Walk on the Wild Side. You know, I mean, my dream would be to be able to walk on the ceiling or to fly and, you know, do all the things that my physical body won't let me do, but my art can. And, you know, my art can hang and I can spin it and watch the light change on it, or hold the UV flashlight and catch all the UV elements. And then the pieces that I've strung up and hung, you know, suspended from the ceiling, they're two-sided pieces. And I love that people can walk in and then realize, oh, wait a minute, there's another piece on the back side, and it's the same piece, the same canvas, but it's, you know, it's a different work of art. Yes, Marie?
I know, as with a fellow artist, when I'm working, I go into a very special place where I'm physically there, but I'm also not. And I'm sure that you share that, well, when you're working particularly through repetition, that it's a meditative process, but you're open to inspiration. Am I on target with that?
Oh, absolutely, and I know most of the artists that are here understand that we are in collaboration with our work as we're creating them. Even if we are artists that will sketch something out, artistic mediums are often very unpredictable. Even if we think we know everything about them, our mood might be unpredictable, our hand might be unpredictable, the lighting, you know, the weather, the emotions, the people that come into the studio, everything might be unpredictable. So for me, I do get in this meditative state, especially when I'm doing like the dots. And the dots, I had always done very repetitive elements, but it was really when we lost our daughter that they very much became part of my everyday visual language, because it was like every dot was a prayer, every dot was a tear, every dot was, you know, just this thought of loss and grief. But over time, those transformed into seeds of memory, of love, of you know, things that we still get to laugh about and be joyful about. And so dots will always be part of my language, but they will always still be very small. I mean, every once in a while I'll have bigger circular elements, but it's back to that biology of everything that we are made of is vibrating, is little tiny dots, little tiny, you know, particles. Yes. Yes, we have.
You mentioned you're a performer, so I'm curious, that transition from like a performer, you go on stage, expectation, entertain me, keep me busy, keep me preoccupied, but as an artist, you're in your own world doing your own thing, and so you now expose yourself to social media. You're both the performer and the artist. Did you struggle with that and gotten used to it, or were you just like, hey?
I don't think it was even a thought. For me, the sharing is so deeply tied to mentoring. Not hey, look at this, or look at me. It's like, you know, I'm showing up every single day. I'm modeling a behavior that I want to sustain as an artist, because I want to keep creating art, which means I have to show up every day. Some days I don't feel like it, and if I'm not feeling the painting, I will do something else. I'll do a small sketch, or I'll do print work, or whatever it is, or I'll do digital work. I'll do, you know, my analog to digital, my A to D work. I've learned over time to not force myself to be something in a particular day that I just don't have the energy to be. But even if I'm doing something else, I'm still sharing that there is another avenue to create. There is another avenue to be. There is another avenue of learning. I mean, I've every year, I don't even know for how long, I make it a point of trying a new medium and trying and usually failing for many weeks, sometimes longer, until it's like, oh, I get this. And then I'm like, oh, but what if I do this with my old mediums and tools? And then surprises happen. And that's why I often call my studio the kitchen, because it is very much like a kitchen back there. I'm cooking something up. I never know exactly what's on the stove, what's in the cupboards. And I invite people all the time. It's like, go back to the kitchen. It's like, where do we hang out in a home? It's usually the kitchen. Anything else? Any other questions? I don't think I have anything left to say. Marty?
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you all. I'm very honored that you all came out and shared this last night of this exhibition with me. It's been very fun having the works in here. I'll leave it at that. But thank you all out in the YouTube land and on the internet. Thank you for joining us here. And sign up for a newsletter if you're not on the newsletter. You can send me an email at info@corecontemporary.com to keep up to speed on what's going on, or check out the website, corecontemporary.com. And then find me as an artist on Instagram at NancyGood_art.